Imagine waking up in a country you've never seen before. Your phone confiscated, no money, no family, and no idea why you've been sent there. Now imagine hundreds of people facing that same fate under secret deals between the United States and several African nations. These are not movie scenes. They're real events unfolding right now, quietly reshaping the future of U.S.-Africa relations. Welcome back to U.S.-Africa Focus. I'm Ali, and today we dive deep into one of the most controversial developments in U.S. foreign policy, a series of secretive deportation and expulsion deals between the United States and several African governments. These agreements are changing not only lives, but also the diplomatic balance between Africa and Washington. Over the past few months, reports from Human Rights Watch, The Guardian, and the Associated Press have revealed that the U.S. has begun deporting people to countries such as Rwanda, Ghana, Eswatini, Uganda, and South Sudan. Not always because those people are from those countries, but because of new third country arrangements quietly signed between governments. In Eswatini, for instance, 10 deportees arrived from the U.S. in October 2025 under a deal worth over $5 million. The agreement reportedly allows up to 160 people to be transferred there in exchange for migration management assistance from Washington. Human Rights Watch says the deal lacks transparency and may violate international law. In Ghana, more than 40 deportees have arrived since July. Some of them are not Ghanaian citizens at all. A Ghanaian rights organization has filed a lawsuit claiming the agreement is unconstitutional because it bypassed parliamentary approval. In Rwanda, the government confirmed a similar deal to receive up to 250 people, while Uganda has agreed to take certain failed asylum seekers from the U.S. in what officials call a temporary humanitarian program. South Sudan has also been identified as one of the countries under discussion. The picture that emerges is one of quiet diplomacy mixed with humanitarian risk. The United States, facing domestic pressure over immigration, has started to outsource deportations to smaller nations. For the African partners, there are obvious incentives: financial aid, infrastructure support, or closer diplomatic ties with Washington. But these arrangements also carry heavy costs. Many African citizens view them as acts of submission, turning their countries into dumping grounds for America's migration problems. Human rights groups warn that these deals could violate international conventions against refoulement, the practice of sending a person to a country where they might face harm or persecution. Some deportees have reported being detained on arrival without due process, held in military facilities, and denied access to lawyers or family contact. In Ghana, several individuals were reportedly kept at a military camp before being transferred onward. In South Sudan, foreign nationals sent from the U.S. remain in government custody with uncertain legal status. One deportee told Human Rights Watch, "The strategy is to break us, to make us accept return by making our lives unbearable." The human stories behind these policies are heartbreaking. Some deportees have lived in the U.S. for decades, raising families, working jobs, and contributing to communities. Others fled persecution or war, only to be sent to countries they've never even visited. One man, deported to Rwanda, told reporters that he hadn't set foot in Africa for 20 years and had no family left on the continent. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now," he said. "These are not just numbers. They're human lives caught between politics and policy." Diplomatically, these deals mark a shift in how Washington manages its global relationships. Instead of treating migration purely as a domestic issue, the U.S. is now weaving it into foreign policy, turning African nations into part of its enforcement system. For smaller states like Eswatini, the power imbalance is stark. For larger ones like Ghana or Rwanda, it's a calculated gamble between reputation and reward. Yet, the broader effect is that Africa once again becomes a testing ground for Western policy experiments. This is especially significant because the US has been trying to rebuild its influence in Africa in recent years through investment, trade programs like AGOA, and diplomatic engagement. But these deportation deals could undermine that effort. They raise questions about whether the US sees African partners as equals or as convenient tools for its own domestic challenges. Not every country is saying yes. Burkina Faso recently rejected a US proposal to accept deportees, citing national dignity and sovereignty. That bold stance has been praised by many African observers who believe that cooperation must never come at the cost of independence and human rights. Whether other governments will follow that example remains to be seen. Looking forward, several key issues need attention. First is transparency. Both the US and African governments must release the full terms of these deals. How many people are being deported, what financial commitments are involved, and how their rights are being protected. Second is legal accountability. Courts in Ghana and elsewhere may soon rule on whether such agreements violate national constitutions or international law. Third is the diplomatic fallout. If public anger continues to grow, it could strain cooperation on everything from trade to counterterrorism. Civil society groups and journalists across Africa are beginning to investigate these agreements, calling for public debate. Some lawmakers are demanding parliamentary review before any future deals are signed. Others argue that if these deportations continue, the African Union should establish regional guidelines to ensure that no country becomes a dumping ground for another's migration enforcement. Ultimately, this controversy forces both sides to confront uncomfortable truths. For African governments, it's a test of sovereignty and accountability. For the United States, it's a test of moral credibility. Can America claim to champion human rights abroad while sending vulnerable people into legal uncertainty and possible harm? And can African leaders claim to act in the people's interest while secretly trading in human lives for foreign aid? The stakes are enormous. These deals are more than technical migration arrangements. They are symbols of how power is exercised in today's world. They reveal how far nations will go to manage borders, protect political interests, and avoid public scrutiny. But they also show that global partnerships are only as strong as the values that sustain them. As this story unfolds, we should all be paying close attention, because the future of US-Africa relations may well be defined not by grand summits or trade announcements, but by what happens to the silent individuals put on a plane, flown halfway across the world, and left to start over with nothing. Thank you for watching US-Africa Focus. I'm Ali, bringing you the stories that matter. Stories that shape how the world sees Africa, and how Africa sees the world. If you found this video informative, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who should know what's happening. Your voice helps this conversation reach further. Until next time, stay informed, stay aware, and stay focused.